and lived experience. I want to invite our panelists to share this important work on Afrofuturism and Blackdom, which I think will open up much better than I could do in this introduction, the power of this work to be liberatory. So our first speaker today is going to be Austin Miller. Austin Miller, I will introduce our speakers, let them speak, and then move on. So Austin is a PhD student in history. He is a New Mexican, so probably like myself sitting here in New Mexico, a bit sad that we can't all gather in the state this year. Austin specializes in the American West and Southwest borderlands as a PhD student in the long 19th century. His research interests include environmental and rural history, the legacy of conflict, and intertwined roles of memory and identity. He entered SMU's Department of History in the fall of 2018. Austin earned his BA in honors in interdisciplinary liberal arts and history from UNM in 2015. And after spending a year teaching and coaching in Carlsbad, New Mexico, he returned to UNM into 2016, where he completed his MA in the history of the American West in 2018. Austin, I'll hand it over to you.
All right, thanks, Allie. And let me see if I can share my screen here. How does that look?
Beautiful.
Okay. Now then, just have to get rid of this toolbar so that all right. Thanks, Allie. And again, I would like to thank everyone, at the WHA who has worked so hard to put this on. Certainly unusual times for all of us. Thank you to Marissa and Timothy for all of your hard work organizing the panel and getting us all here to this point. So with that, I'll go ahead and jump in. I'm going to be talking more so about memorial movements that materialized almost a century after Blackdom was founded. And so I will leave for other presenters to go back and talk a little bit more about the town itself. So I'm sure some of what I talk about will be clarified down the line. So with that, various attempts to memorialize the travails and accomplishments of Blackdom pioneers emerged nearly a century after the town's establishment in 1903. The mixture of minor success and severe disappointment that accompanied each of these movements forms a mirror image of the overarching Blackdom narrative. Despite the sincere efforts of activists, community organizers, and elected officials, poor planning, lack of funding, and unfortunate timing doomed all but one of these blossoming memorial endeavors. I'd like to begin, however, with a rather peculiar confluence of history and popular culture. In the finale of the 2017 Netflix miniseries, Godless, an all-Black community of former slaves and Buffalo soldiers in northern New Mexico is brutally massacred by a marauding band of outlaws. Although the fictional settlement where the slaughter takes place is named Blackdom, this tragic downfall bears little resemblance to that of its historical counterpart. Despite the bloodshed that swept through the fictional community of Blackdom in Godless, the real Blackdom suffered no such moment of acute annihilation. Instead, it shared its piecemeal denouement with countless other Western communities whose resources ultimately proved insufficient to support their occupants. Thus, the Blackdom community endured an extended period of deterioration and abandonment, rather than the gruesome climax portrayed in Godless. Given the US's seemingly inexhaustible fascination with violence and the memorialization of such bloody confrontations, if the tragic circumstances of this cinematic rendering had actually come to pass, it's likely, albeit through a rather grim brand of irony, that Blackdom would enjoy a more prominent position in the history of both New Mexico and within the Blacktown movement. Although wanton destruction typically provokes greater commemorative passion than does quiet dissipation, 3 distinct Blackdom memorial projects emerged nearly a century after the Townsite Company's original incorporation. Only one of these visions ever reached fruition, but the recurrent pattern that emerges, diligent labor, followed by minor successes, and tempered by eventual collapse, echoes the very history of the community that a group of devoted individuals hoped to memorialize.